So a few weeks ago, I was playing Trials with my friends, and I was trying to think of a loadout that I could kind of settle into and practice and get used to and get really good with. I wanted something simple, I didn't want something complicated, but I also didn't want something really basic like Shinobu's Vow or Stompies. Well, at the beginning of this season, Graviton Forfeit got a buff, so I decided to give it a try, and Trials has not been the same for me since. Nothing about this build is complicated, but it has completely changed the way that I play Trials, the way that I play with my team, and it's been great. So yeah, if you want to up your sneaky game a little bit, this is the perfect build. I tried bottom tree with the smoke bombs and those were good, and I did try middle tree with flawless execution as well. Graviton does bump that up all the way to 15 seconds of invisibility, which is a super long time. And actually, now that it's been buffed, I think it might even be 17 seconds. But ultimately, the subclass that I landed on was top tree Night Stalker. Top tree Night Stalker states that when you dodge, you gain invisibility. This ability is called Vanishing Step. Obviously, dodging isn't something you need to get a kill to do. You don't have to be near enemies and dodge or something like that with bottom tree. And that's probably my favorite part of this whole build, is that it doesn't require setup. So whether you want to start an engagement or finish an engagement with invisibility, however you want to play it is an option on the table, because all you need to do is dodge. I like to keep builds simple, so I figured this was the perfect candidate. The whole drive of this build is to dodge and go invisible as often as you possibly can, or at least whenever you need it. And by going invisible, you go off sensors. And part of the reason that's such a big deal and is so important is because Hunter invisibility is the only way that I'm aware of that you can actually fully disappear from sensors. Unlike Halo, where you can simply crouch and disappear from sensors, this is the only way, and people just really aren't expecting it, which gives you a really strong element of surprise. Top tree Night Stalker's Vanishing Step, that starts with a 5-second invisibility period, but with Graviton Forfeit, which extends invisibility, and that was buffed just at the beginning of the season, it extends it to 8 seconds. Graviton's perk states that it increases the duration of any invisibility effect, and while you're invisible, your melee recharges faster, your weapons reload faster, and your recovery is greatly increased. All of those are fantastic buffs to be stacking on top of each other, but the main thing we're going to be focusing on is invisibility. But before I talk about optimizing this build, let's talk about all the benefits of invisibility, because it is actually fairly easy to see invisible hunters, but there are benefits besides that, and I think difficulty to see is the least beneficial of them. So obviously, invisibility makes you more difficult to see, but it also lowers aim assist for opponents, so it makes you much harder to hit, makes it much harder for people to land headshots on you, and although it's still going to happen from time to time, it's very difficult. I mean, I don't know if you've tried to shoot some invisible hunters, but it feels like you're playing a different game. Most importantly, I would say though, is that you disappear from sensors. This is a great way that you can outmaneuver and flank your opponents and be able to create pushes that you ordinarily wouldn't be, because they would just see you coming. And with the extra time that Graviton gives you, instead of only having 5 seconds with Vanishing Step, you get a full 8 seconds, which is just so much more time to work with. So a lot of times that added time is just enough to let you get a little bit further on your flank, and it gives you that element of surprise on your enemies, which is so huge in Destiny with quick kill times. It can be great in team play if you're communicating with your teams and they cause kind of a push and you just come up behind them. And it can also buy you time if you're all alone. If your teammates get wiped out and you're the last one standing, I've had this really clutch up for me. Being able to take a breather and get off their sensors for just a few seconds can really help you outmaneuver your opponents. Many times I choose to do this at the beginning of a round and flank and get some easy fusion rifle kills that way. But it can also be fantastic later in the round if you need to do a sneaky revive, or whatever the case. This may not seem like a genius build or anything crazy that you haven't seen before, but I would just encourage you to look at the gameplay below and see how many people that I kill by surprise. And I think a fusion rifle is a great pairing with Kickstart on my Adept Plug 1, and that really helps me get the kill off a little bit faster. If it gives you any idea, I don't usually get a lot of kills on any singular Crucible weapon, and since the Trials revamp, I've gotten 700 kills on this Plug 1, so it's been a ton of fun. It works really well, fusions are in a good place, and it just works really well with this build because you can still reach up to like 20-25 meters depending on the fusion rifle you have, whereas you don't really want to get that close with a shotgun, and you don't really have time either. So seriously, give this a try next time you get on your hunter. Communicate with your teammates, don't go the same way that they do. Stay off sensors, take a flank, communicate with your team, and try and work together to kind of pinch your enemies before they even realize what's going on. It's a great strategy, and I've clutched up plenty of rounds doing this, and I've played a lot of good teams that have just fallen prey to this and didn't see it coming, and before they knew it, 2 of their teammates were fusion rifled, and then all 3 of us were collapsing on the final team member. And I know I'm mentioning mainly Trials, but it is really effective in Control. Just anytime that you can stay off sensors gives you a huge element of surprise on your enemies, and even that aim assist reduction is big if you're just trying to escape. I can't stress how good the escapability of this perk is too. It's not good just offensively, it's great defensively as well. Alright, so I'm going to take take a break from talking about how the actual build works and instead talk about how you can optimize it and get the most out of it. First things first, your entire goal is to get your dodge back as often as possible. So it kind of goes without saying, I probably don't even have to tell you that you want to start with 100 mobility. This is going to bring your class cooldown to 11 seconds, which is already pretty speedy. But where do you really go from there, right? I mean, what else can you do? Well, you do have a couple options. You can do the void mods for your class item, your cloak. Perpetuation states that after using your class ability, you get a little bit of energy back, and that's okay. It's not great, but it shaves a little bit of time off. But a far better counterpart to that is utility Kickstart, one of the new stasis mods, also found on your class item. I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand the descriptions between these two and how they're any different. It just seems like to me that the stasis perk is straight up better, but if you combine two of these on your class item, it gives you probably a third of your dodge back as soon as the animation finishes. So what's going to happen is that you're going to dodge, you're going to get a third of your energy back. That's on top of an already short cooldown of 11 seconds. So if you combine it with your 100 mobility, it's probably only 8 or 9 seconds to get your dodge back. And with Revenant forfeit, it extends your invisibility all the way up to like 7 or 8 seconds. So realistically, after you dodge, you only have to wait like 2 or 3 seconds to get it back again. And as far as I'm aware, this is the fastest that you can get your dodge back. So yeah, I think you can kind of see how this would get not out of hand, but it's just very effective. Being able to go off sensors and hide this often is fantastic, and don't forget that you get your melee energy back faster. And those little smoke grenades are so useful for trapping and slowing down your enemies or disorienting them, because when you throw them, they do show up as like an enemy on their sensors, so that's a big thing. I know that's confused me in the past. And of course, Graviton Forfeit also states that it increases your recovery greatly. Basically, this gives you level 10 recovery no matter your stats, which is great because this lets you spec out into other things. So personally, I have high mobility, and I also spec out for discipline, which means I have lots of projectiles because I have high discipline restoring my grenades, and then while I'm invisible, it's also restoring my smoke really often. So yeah, really great combination here, and if you want to see a great breakdown of how the recovery works with Graviton Forfeit, I definitely recommend Cool Guy's channel. He does a great breakdown of this. I'll link that down below. But this is just such a strong build overall, and I really encourage you guys to try this. If you haven't tried Graviton Forfeit in a while, it was buffed, and you need to give it a try. It's a great build for someone who kind of just wants to plug and play. It's not very complicated. You just have to change a couple mods around. It's simple. It's a one-step gameplay loop, and if you optimize it properly, it's incredibly effective. The way I see it, I'm not as good as a lot of tough players in Trials or the Crucible in general, but if I can give myself a consistent edge through a simple build, I've got a better chance of winning. Something consistent, not flashy, just effective, and Graviton plus Top Tree Night Stalker does that for me. So really, if you're struggling in Trials or the Crucible, I really recommend this build. I think it's going to elevate your game a lot, and if you try it, let me know down in the comments below how you like it, how you did. I'd love to hear from you. I love talking with you guys in the comments. It's one of my favorite things. And as always, I appreciate when you leave a like too. It always helps out the channel, and if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this super sneaky build with Graviton Forfeit and Top Tree Night Stalker, and until next time, have a good one. See ya!